Good day everyone, good day ma'am. I am Jolina Lasconia and today we will tackle about energy. Before we start, I just want to ask you what is energy? Energy is to do work by performing mechanical, physical, chemical, or electrical tasks or to cause a heat transfer between two objects at different temperatures. Kung nag-wonder mo nganong gikinahanglan ta nga magtuon aning energy, kinahanglan ta og kusog sa daghan nga rason. Una, og labaw sa tanan, gikinahanglan ni para magpabiling buhi. Ang energy naa sa tanan nga atong gikaon, gikonsumo o gigamit. The objectives of this chapter are to identify the sources of energy to use, the advantages and disadvantages of fossil fuels, the advantages and disadvantages of nuclear energy, to know the significance of energy efficiency in energy resources, the advantages and disadvantages of renewable energy resources, to identify the transition to a more sustainable energy future. Major sources of energy do use. Fossil fuels supply most of our commercial energy. Everything runs on energy. That includes your body, the plants, and animals that supply with you food. The buildings you live and work in, cars, factories, and all the world's economies. Almost of the energy that heats the earth and our buildings came from the sun at no cost to us. Without this essentially exhaustible input, the solar energy, the Earth's average temperature would be negative 240 Celsius, and you would not be reading this world. This direct input of solar energy produces several other forms of renewable energy, resources that can be true of as indirect solar energy. The wind, the moving air masses heated with the sun, hydropower, the flowing water kept fluid by heat from the sun, and the biomass, the solar energy converted the chemical energy and stored in trees and other plants. This figure shows that the left side is the commercial energy used by the source throughout the world, and on the right side, in the United States, in 2007. Currently, most commercial energy sold in the marketplace comes from extracting and burning non-renewable energy resources obtained from the Earth's crust. About 90% of the commercial energy used in the world came from such resources. 86% from the carbonating fossil fuels, the oil, natural gas, and the coal, and 6% from nuclear power. This remaining 8% of the commercial energy we use came from renewable energy resources, the biomass, hydropower, geothermal, wind, and solar energy. According to scientists, all energy resources should be evaluated on the basis of their supplies, the environmental impact of our using them, and how much net useful energy they provide. Advantages and disadvantages of fossil fuels. We depend heavily on oil. Petroleum or crude oil, the oil as it comes from the ground, is black, gooey liquid consisting of hundreds of different combustible hydrocarbons along with small amounts of sulfur, oxygen, and nitrogen impurities. It's also known as a light oil. Crude oils and natural gas are called fossil fuels because they are formed from the decaying remains of organisms that lived 100 to 5 million years ago. Net energy is the only energy that really counts. It is a total amount of useful energy available from an energy resource minus the energy needed to find, extract, process, and get the energy to consumers. It is calculated by estimating the total amount of energy available from the resource over its lifetime and then subtracting the amount of energy used automatically wasted because of the second law of thermodynamics and unnecessarily wasted in finding, processing, and transporting the useful energy to users. Net energy is like the net profit earned by a business after expenses. We can express net energy as the ratio of energy produced to the energy used to produce it. Deposits of crude oil and natural gas often are trapped together under a dome deep within the Earth's crust on land or under the seafloor. The crude oil is dispersed in pores and cracks in underground rock formations, somewhat like water saturated a sponge. To extract the oil, developers drill a well into the deposit. The oil drawn by gravity out of the rock pores flows into the bottom of the well and is pumped to the surface. Some of the product of crude oil distillation, called petrochemicals, are used as raw materials in industrial organic chemicals, cleaning fluids, pesticides, plastics, synthetic fibers, paints, medicine, and many other products. Producing a desktop computer, for example, typically requires about 10 times in weight in fossil fuels, mostly oil. The figure 13.3, refining crude oil. Components of petroleum are removed at various levels depending on their boiling points in a giant distillation column. The most volatile components with the lowest boiling points are removed at the top of the column. The photo shows an oil refinery in U.S. states of Texas. Crude oil is now the single largest source of commercial energy in the world and in the United States. Proven oil reserves one identified deposits from which crude oil can be extracted profitably and current prices with current technology. Geologists project that known and project global reserves of crude oil will be 80% completed sometimes with the world has proven reserves equivalent to 46.6 times its annual consumption levels. This means it has about 37 years of oil left, but we have an option. The first one is look for more oil, use and waste less oil, or use another energy sources. OPEC controlled most of the world's crude oil supplies. The 13 countries that make up the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries have about 78% of the world's proven crude oil reserve and thus will control most of the world's oil supplies for many decades. Today, OPEC's members are Algeria, Angola, Ecuador, Indonesia, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Libya, Nigeria, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Venezuela. Saudi Arabia has the largest portion of the world crude oil reserves, 20%. It followed by Canada, 16%, which converts heavy oil extracted from tar sand into synthetic crude oil. In order, the other countries with large proven crude oil reserves are Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, Venezuela, and Russia. It is about 77% of the world's proven crude oil reserves are the hands of government-owned companies. Private companies such as ExxonMobil and BP control only about 7% of the world's oil reserve and thus have relatively little control over oil supplies and prices. To keep using crude oil at the project rate of increase, we must discover global crude oil reserve equivalent to a new Saudi Arabian supply every 5 years. Many oil geologists say that it's highly unlikely. The extraction, processing, and burning of non-renewable oil and other fossil fuels have severe environmental impact, including land destruction, air pollution, greenhouse gas emissions, water pollution, and loss of biodiversity. Crude oil has advantages and disadvantages. The extraction, processing, and burning of non-renewable oil and other fossil fuels have severe environmental impact, including land destruction, air pollution, greenhouse gas emission, water pollution, and loss of biodiversity. A critical and growing problem is that burning oil or any carbon-containing fossil fuels release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and according to most climate scientists, this will contribute to project climate change. The picture shows advantages and disadvantages of using crude oil as an energy resource. The advantages are ample supply for 42 to 93 years, low cost, high net energy yield, easily transport within and between countries, low land use, technology as well developed, and efficient distribution system. And the disadvantages are need to find substitute within 50 years, large government subsidies, Environmental cost not included in market price. Artificially low price encourage waste and discourages search for alternatives. Pollutes air when produced and burned. Release carbon dioxide when burned and can cause water pollution. Will heavy oils from tar sand and oil shale save us? Tar sand or oil sand is a mixture of clay, sand, water, and a combustible organic material called bitumen. It is a thick, sticky, tar-like heavy oil with a high sulfur content. Producing synthetic oil from a tar sand have a massive environmental impact. For every barrel of synthetic crude oil produced from the tar sand, developers remove an amount of overburden roughly equal to the weight of an African elephant. As a result, more earth is being removed in Canada's Athabasca Valley than anywhere else in the world. The process creates open mining pits large enough to be seen in satellite image. It also produces a great deal of air pollution. Much of mining region's air is filled dust like steam, smoke, gas fumes, and a tar strand. The picture shows at the left is oil shale rock and the right side is the shale oil that extracted from it. Producing shale oil requires large amount of water and has a low net energy yield and a very high environmental impact. The second picture shows the advantages and disadvantages of heavy oils from oil shale and tar sand. The advantages are moderate cost, large potential supplies, especially tar sand in Canada, easily transport within and between countries, efficient distribution system in place, technology will develop. And the disadvantages, those are high cost, energy yield, environmental cost that not included in market price, large amounts of water needed for processing, severe land destruction, severe water pollution and air pollution, and carbon dioxide emission when produced and burned. Natural gas is a useful and clean burning fossil fuels. Natural gas is a mixture of gases of which 50 to 90% of methane. It also contains smaller amount of heavier gaseous hydrocarbons such as propane and butane. This versatile fuel can be burned to heat space and water, to produce electricity, and to propel vehicles. Conventional natural gas lies about the reservation of crude oil, but that found in deep sea and remote land areas. Where natural gas pipelines have been built as usually burned off. The odds of climate change, carbon dioxide, the atmosphere without providing any useful energy. The long-term global outlook for environmental gases supply is better than for crude oil. At current consumption rates, no reserve of conventional natural gas should last the world 62 to 125 years. A figure shows that the advantage and disadvantage of conventional natural gas. The advantages, those are ample supplies, high net energy yield, low cost, less air pollution than other fossil fuels, lower carbon dioxide emission than other fossil fuels, easily transported by pipeline, low land use, and good fuel for fuel cells, gas turbines, and motor vehicles. The disadvantages are non-renewable resource, release carbon dioxide when burned, government subsidies, environmental cost not included in market price, methane can leak from pipelines, difficult to transfer from one country to another, and the last one can be shipped across oceans only as highly explosive LNG. Coal is a plentiful but dirty fuel. Coal was formed in several stages out of the remains of land plants that were buried 300 to 400 million years ago and exposed to intense heat and pressure over million years ago. Coal is burned in power plant to generate about 40% of the world's electricity 50% of the electricity used in the United States and 70% of that in China. It is also burned in industrial plants to make iron, steel, and other products. The figure shows the stages in coal formation over million years. Peat in a soil material made of moist, partially decomposed organic matter and is not classified as a coal. Although it too is used as a fuel. The different major types of a coal vary in the amounts of heat, carbon dioxide, and sulfur dioxide released per unit of mass when they are burned. The picture is a coal burning power plant. Heat produced by burning pulverized coal in a furnace boil water to produce steam that spins a turbine to produce electricity. The steam is cooked, condensed, and returned to a boiler for reuse. Waste heat can be transferred to the atmosphere or to a nearby source of energy. Coal is plentiful and cheap as long as its harmful environmental costs are not included in the market price. But mining and burning coal have severe impacts on the Earth's air, water, and land climate and human health. The figure shows the advantage and disadvantage using coal as an energy resource. The advantages are ample supplies in 225 to 900 years, heating net energy yield, low cost, well-developed technology, and air pollution can be reduced with improved technology. The disadvantages are severe land disturbance, air pollution, and water pollution, severe threat to human health when burned, environmental costs not included in the market price, large government subsidies, high carbon dioxide emission when produced and burned, and radioactive particle and toxic mercury emissions. For this reason, many environmental scientists argue strongly that mining and burning coal is and probably always will be the dirtiest way to produce electricity. We can convert coal into gaseous and liquid fuels. Solid coal can be converted into synthetic natural gas by a process called coal gasification, which removes sulfur and most other impurities from coal. It also converted into liquid fuels such as methanol and synthetic gasoline through a process called coal liquefaction. These fuels called synfuel are often referred as cleaner version of coal, but compared to plain burning coal directly, producing synfuels requires mining 50% more coal, and producing and burning them could add 50% more carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. As a result, synfuels have a low net energy yield and cost more to provide per unit of energy than producing coal cost. This figure talks about the advantages and disadvantages of using synthetic natural gas and liquid synfuel producing from coal. Advantages are large potential supply, vehicle fuel, moderate cost, lower air pollution than coal when burned, and the disadvantages are low to moderate net energy yield, higher cost than coal, requires mining 50% more coal, environmental costs not included in the market price, high environmental impact, large government subsidies, high water use, and higher carbon dioxide emission than coal. The next reporter is Ms. Caguil.
So good day everyone, I am Mechill Caguil, the second reporter for this topic, energy. So we are going to tackle about the advantages and disadvantages of nuclear energy. So let us define first the nuclear energy. What is nuclear energy? It is the energy released during nuclear fissions of fusions, especially when used to make electricity. So, the heat released by fissions is used to create steam that spins a turbine to generate electricity without the harmful byproducts emitted by fossil fuels. So, this energy maka-undergo si nuclear reaction such as mga spontaneous emissions of radioactivity, nuclear fissions, nor nuclear fusion. So, what is nuclear fusion? It is a nuclear chains in which two isotopes of light elements such as hydrogens are forced together and at extremely high temperature until they fuse to form a heavier nucleus, releasing energy in the process. So, while the nuclear fission is a nuclear chains in which a model of certain isotopes with large mass number and split apart into lightly nuclei when struck by neutrons and a large amount of energy. So, mao'y kalahian sa nuclear fusions and nuclear fissions. So, to evaluate the advantages and disadvantages of nuclear power, we must know a nuclear power plant and its accompanying nuclear fuel cycle work. A nuclear power plant is a highly complex and costly system designed to perform a relatively simple task, like for example, to boil water to produce steam that spin a turbine to generate electricity. So what makes it complex is the use of a controlled nuclear fission reaction to provide the heat. Then the fission reaction takes place in reactors. Then the most common reactors is called the light water reactors. So the light water reactors are highly inefficient, losing about 75% of the energy available in the nuclear fuel as waste heat to the environment just in generating the electricity before. So, in the figure provided below, this is the figure 13 to 14. As you can see, this is the light water moderated and cold nuclear power plant with a pressurized water reactor. Then some nuclear plants withdraw water for cooling from a nearby sources of water and return the heated water to the source. So, as shown here, makita nato diri ang ilang water sources which is the river, lake, and oceans. Then ilahang input is the cold water and the output is the hot water. So mao na pinaagi nga makaproduce og electricity. So the large number of pellets are packed into closed pipes called fuel rods, in which are then grouped together in fuel assemblies to be placed in the core of the reactor. So, the control rods are moved in and out of the reactor core to absorb neutrons, thereby regulating the rate of the fissions and amount of power produced. Then a column is usually water circulates through the reactor's core to remove heat, which keep fuel rods and other materials from melting and releasing massive amounts of radioactivity into the environment. Then the low water reaction includes an emergency that core cooling system as a backup to help prevent such meltdown. So a containment shell with thick steel reinforced concrete walls surrounds the reactor core. So it is designed to keep radioactive materials from escaping into the environment. In case there is an internal explosions or melting of the core within the reactor, it also protects the core from some external threats such as tornadoes and plane crashes. This gives you an idea of why such plant costs so much to build. And this cost is rising rapidly. Next is the nuclear fuel cycle. What is nuclear fuel cycle? It is a nuclear power plant that includes a mining of uranium, processing and enriching the uranium to make fuel, using it in a reactor and safely storing the resulting highly radioactive waste for thousands of years until radioactivity falls to safe levels. The picture below shows the nuclear fuel cycle. As long as a reactor is operating safely, the power plant itself has a fairly low environmental impact and very low risk of an accident. But considering the whole nuclear fuel cycle, ng makakos og high radioactive waste must be stored and also safely for 1,000 years. And several points in the cycle are vulnerable to terrorist attack, and the technology used in the cycle can also be used to produce materials for nuclear weapons. And also, an amount of energy equal to about 92% of the energy content of the nuclear fuels is wasted in the nuclear fuel cycle. So what happened to the nuclear power? In 1950s, the researcher predicted that by the year of 2000, at least 1,800 nuclear power plants would supply 21% of the world commercial energy and most of the world electricity. After almost 60 years of development, enormous government subsidies and a huge investment, these goals have not been met. Then in the case study by the Chernobyl, the world's worst nuclear power plant accident. So let us read this study. So let us know that Chernobyl is known around the globe as the site of the world's most serious nuclear power plant accident on April 26, 1986. So two simultaneous explosions is one of the reactor in a nuclear power plant in Ukraine. Then the part of the Soviet Union blew the massive roof of a reactor building. The reactor partially melted down and its Grapal moderator caught fire and burned for 10 days. Then, the initial explosion and the prolonged fires released a radioactive cloud that spread over much of Belarus, Russia, Ukraine, and Europe and eventually encircled the planet. So, then according to UN studies, the Chernobyl disaster was caused by poor reactor. Why poor reactor design? Not used in the United States or in the most other parts of the world. And by human error, and it had serious consequences. By 2005, 56 people had died prematurely from exposure to radiations released by the accident. Then the estimated numbers of long-term deaths from the accident range from 9,000. That's that's ba according to the World Health Organization. Muna estimated sa WHO nga namatay adto nga accident. Then sa kuan po Russian Academy of Medical Sciences na 212 nga nangamatay muna po na ilang estimated dito because of tungod sa poor record keeping and inadequate medical tracking nga kuan sila og nang dili pa jud tumao ang actual death nga na estimate nila. Then after the accident, some 350 people had to abandon their homes because of contamination by radioactive fallout. So in addition to fears about long-term health effects such as cancers, many of these victims continue to suffer from stress and depressions. In parts of Ukraine, people still cannot dili pa sila ka-drink of water o eat locally produced food. And there are also a higher incidence of thyroid cancer, mga leukemia o immune system abnormalities in children exposed to Chernobyl radioactive fallout. So, mao jud tinang hitabo ato nga kanang incident, no? Then the Chernobyl taught us a hard lesson, which is a major nuclear accident anywhere has effect the reverberate throughout much of the world. Once more, a major nuclear power accident anywhere in the world could have a devastating impact to the future of nuclear power. So, mao toy nahitabo sa nuclear power dito sa Ukraine, tong mga gipang mention ako nga mga lugar. This is the list of the major advantages and disadvantages of nuclear power. In particular, using nuclear power to produce electricity has some important advantages over coal-burning power plants. So, let us read here the advantages first, which is the large fuel supply, low environmental impact without accident, then emits 1/6 as much carbon dioxide as coal, moderate land disruption and water pollutions without accident, moderate land use, and low risk of accident because of multiple safety system, except for Chernobyl type of reaction. So, mao na mga advantages sa nuclear power. So, while the disadvantages are cannot compete economically without huge government subsidies. So, mangyanlan jud sila og mga subsidies gikan sa government para makakompete sila economically. Then, it has a low net energy yield, high environmental impact with major accident also. Then, environmental cost not included in market price, risk of catastrophic accident, no widely acceptable solution for long-term storage of radioactive waste, subject to terrorist attack, and spread knowledge and technology for building nuclear weapons. So, those are the advantages and disadvantages of nuclear power. Next question, why is energy efficiency an important energy resources? So, in the United States, could save as much as 43% of all the energy it used by improving the energy efficiency of industrial operation, vehicles, and buildings. So, energy efficiency, the measure of how work we can get from each unit of energy we use. So, many analyses urge us to increase our supply of energy and save money by wasting less energy. And the best way to do is to improve energy efficiency. Improving energy efficiency means using our brains and technology to do more and better work with less energy and money. It is a win-win solution. Yeah, you may be surprised or learn that roughly many percent of commercial energy used in some countries is wasted. Then about 41% of the energy is wasted, unavoidable because of the degradations of energy quality imposed by the second law of thermodynamics. In the figure below, it is the figure 13 to 19. This is the flow of commercial energy through the U.S. economy. Only 60% of commercial energy used in the United States ends up performing useful tasks or being converted to petrochemicals. The rest is unavoidable wasted because of the second law of thermodynamics, or is wasted unnecessary. Reducing energy waste has numerous economic and environmental advantages. To most energy analysis, reducing energy waste is the quickest, cleanest, and usually the cheapest way to provide more energy, reduce pollution and environmental degradation, and slow projected climate changes. So there are four widely used devices waste large amount of energy unnecessary. First is the incandescent light bulb. Uses only 5 to 10% of the electricity it draws to produce light, while the other 90 to 95% is wasted as heat. It is a really heat bulb. Then a motor vehicle with an internal combustion engine wastes about 80% of the energy in its fuel. Then next is a nuclear power plant producing electricity for space heating or water heating wastes about 75% of the energy in its nuclear fuel and probably 92% when we include the additional energy used in the nuclear fuel cycle. Then lastly is the coal-fired power plant. Waste about 66% of the energy released by burning coal to produce electricity, and probably, if we include the energy needed to dig up the coal and transport it to the plant, we can do much better than this. Energy experts call for us to use our scientific and engineering brain power to replace this energy wasting dinosaurs with more energy efficient and less environmentally harmful alternatives over the next few decades. Perhaps you can play a role in making an important shift in how we get our energy. We can save energy and money in industry. So some industries save energy and money by using cogenerations or combined heat and power system. In such a system, two useful forms of energy, such as steam and electricity, are produced from the same fuel source. For example, the steam produced in generating electricity in CHP system can be used to heat the plant or other nearby buildings rather than released into the environment and wasted. The energy efficiency of this system is highly as 80% compared to 30 to 40% for coal-fired boilers and nuclear power plants. So another way to save energy and money in industry is to replace energy wasting electric motors, which consume one fourth of the electricity produced in the United States and 65% of the electricity used in U.S. industry. So most of these motors are inefficient because they run only at full speed with their output throttle to match the task. Then somewhat like keeping one foot of the gas pedal of your car and the other of the brake pedal to control its speed. Then replacing them with variable speed motors which run at the minimum rate needed for each job. So save energy and reduce the environmental impact of electric motor use. Then next is the recycling materials such as steel and other metals is a third way of our industry to save energy and money. For example, producing steel from recycled scrap iron uses 75% unto less energy than producing steel from a virgin iron emits 40% less carbon dioxide. Then the fourth way for industry to save energy is to switch from low efficiency incandescent lighting to a higher efficiency fluorescent lightning, and in the near future to even more efficient lead lightning. There is also a great deal of waste in the transmissions of electricity to industries and communities. Grid system of high voltage transmission lines carry electricity from power plants, wind turbines, and other electricity produced to these users. Some energy experts place top priority on converting and expanding of outdated U.S. electrical grid system into what they call a smart grid. An emergency affections digitally controlled a high voltage grid that is responsible to local and regional changes in demand and supply. So building more high voltage transmission lines throughout the country is political and popular and will be vigorously opposed by some states and common upgrading and communities. We can save energy and money in transportation. The transportation accounts for two-thirds. All assumption, and there is a lot of room for improvements to efficient transportation. And the one reason for this inefficiency is in a government, fuel efficient standard had been generally low for many years. Then, however, fuel economy standard for new vehicles in Europe, Japan, China, and Canada are much higher than those in the United States. More energy efficient vehicles are on the way. So in the figure below, this is the conventional hybrid and plug-in hybrid. So general features of a car powered by a hybrid gasoline electric engine. Nasa left, kanang plug-in hybrid. A plug-in hybrid vehicle, mo nasa right, would have a smaller internal combustion engine and a second and more powerful battery that can be plugged into a standard of 110 volt outlet and recharge. This allows it to run further on electricity alone. In effect, a conventional hybrid car is a car with a small internal combustion engine with a battery backup, and a plug-in hybrid is an electric car with a smaller internal combustion engine used only to recharge the battery pack. We can save energy and money in existing buildings. So there are some recommendation to save energy and money in existing building. For it has also different ways. A good first step for any building is to have an expert suggest ways to improve energy efficiency. So first, insulate the building and plug leaks. About one-third of the heated air is atypical. Homes and building escape from holes. So during hot weather, these windows and cracks let heat in, increasing the use of the air conditioning. Adding insulation and plugging leaks are two of the quickest, cheapest, and the best way to save energy and money in building. So second is the use energy efficient window. Like replacing leaky windows with energy efficient windows can cut expensive heat losses from a house by two-thirds, lessen cooling costs of in the summer, and reduce heating system carbon dioxide emission. Then the third is the heat houses more efficiently. In order, the most energy efficient ways to heat space are super insulation, which would include plugging leaks, geothermal heat pump, and transfer heat stored in the earth to a home. Discuss and a passive solar heating, a high efficiency and conventional heat pump in a warm climates only, small co-generating mutation fueled by natural gas, and a high efficiency of natural gas furnace. So next is the heat water more efficiently. One approach is a good roof mounted solar hot water heater, now being widely used in China, Israel, and a number of other countries. So another option is a tankless instant water heater na about the size of a suitcase. Then fired by natural gas or LPG, not electricity. Then this device widely used in many parts of Europe. Heat water instantly and provided only when needed. Then next is use energy efficient appliances. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, in the household use in the most efficient 12 refrigerator now are available. So, microwave ovens can cut electricity used for cooking with electricity stove. Then, a conventional oven cut energy used by about 20%. Then, paggamit na po og clothes dryer with moisture sensor cut energy. Then, refrigerator with freezer na on the bottom instead, that cut electricity use and operating cost of itself. Then last is the use energy efficient lighting. Newer compact fluorescent light bulbs or CFLS cut energy used by by 75% on lasts up to 10 times longer than incandescent bulbs. So those are the recommendations to save energy and money in existing building. Next is the why are we still wasting so much energy? Cutting energy waste will not solve our energy problems, but it is an important first step. So, with such an impressive array of benefits, why is there a little emphasis on improving energy efficiency? One reason is that fossil fuels, nuclear power, and other widely used energy resources are artificially cheap primarily because of the government subsidies they receive and because market prices do not include the harmful environmental and health costs of their production and use. As a result, people are more likely to waste energy and less likely to invest in improving energy efficiency. So another reason is that there are few large and long-lasting government tax breaks, rebates, low interest, and long-term loans, and other economic incentives for consumers and businesses to invest to improving energy efficiency. Figure below, that is the figure 13 to 24, then you can save energy where you live. So, as you can see, hang reflective pole near, rule to reflect that makasave jud ka ani na kay house fan nasa babaw bitaw, wish ng mga bathroom, kitchen nimo, makayos kag use microwave, run only follows in this washer and use low of no heat drying, clean refrigerator, calls regularly, then mga mo nimong basement or utility room. Then other rooms, maka-use ka compact fluorescent light bulbs or LEDs and avoid using incandescent bulb wherever possible. Doon na imong panggamiton no. I-turn off ni mo imong light, mga computer, TV, and other electricity devices when they are not in use para makasave jud ta. Then karon nga panahon bitaw mahal na kayong kuryente, so ato yung hunaon off na to ang mga kuryente kanang suga kung na may gipang charge, so unsa puno na pang ibton jud nato, dili nato pasagdan nga ma-waste ra nato ang atong electricity nga wala nato gigamit, dili nato ma-consume. So mag kuan jud ta, dili nato sayangon. Then for today's generation, electricity is very important, no? Mao nang atong hunahunaon nga dili nato sayangon ang paggamit sa kuryente kay wala ta kay pagyong sa na nila pag produce para makakuryente data. Din dili ta maglikramo-likramo og sahay man gani nga dili walay kuryente ato na lang huwaton kay dili lalim kay na ubang sa panahon nga producing electricity ka maka-damage pod na mga accident ka mangitabo og dili sakto ang pamaagi. So with that, we need to use our electricity in a right way and in the right time. Then don't waste too much electricity with nothing use. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Caguil. Now let's proceed to what are the advantages and disadvantages of renewable energy resources. But before we proceed, let me introduce myself first. My name is Jolina Silmaro from BSHM 3B. Now let me tackle what is renewable energy resources. A renewable energy is produced by sources like the sun and wind that are naturally replenished and do not run out. It can be used for electricity generation, space and water heating and cooling and transportation. In other words, this kind of energy is very natural sources that can be sustained unlimited energy that will be used and can reduce population, greenhouse gas emissions, and biodiversity losses. Now let me tackle first the advantages and disadvantages of this kind of resources. The advantages are we can use renewable energy to provide heat and electricity. One of the examples of this are solar panels. Why? Because it can store an energy from the sun that can provide an electricity that will be able to use on everyday life, especially it is affordable and usable these days. Second is we can heat buildings and water with solar energy. Buildings and water can be heated by passive and active solar heating system. So what is passive and active solar heating system? A passive solar heating system absorbs and stores heat from the sun directly within a well-insulated structure without the need for pumps or fans to distribute the heat. As you can see the picture below, an example of Rocky Mountain Institute headquarters. The sun's heat collected by its central greenhouse and the building's other windows is stored in the masonry, the floor, large water tanks, and the earth under the house slowly release into the interior. So on the right side, in the picture below is an example of an active solar heating system. Uses energy from the sun by pumping a heat-absorbing fluid, such as water or an antifreeze solution, through special collectors usually mounted on a roof or on a special racks to face the sun. Here are the list of the major advantage and disadvantages of using passive or active solar heating system for heating buildings. So the first one here is energy is free. Energy is free, of course, is renewable energy because you can only get in natural resources. And then second is net energy is moderate or active to high passive. It means in this kind of sources is very resourceful in terms of gaining energy that be able to harvest and use to help the economics. Third is quick installation. It is easy to work with and install from our homes or places and very convenient. The fourth one is no carbon dioxide. Emissions means no, it would exist if we would engage to this energy, and that would be a great help to avoid global warming in our dear planet. Very low land disturbance or built into roof or windows, as what I've said earlier, it's very easy to install that it will not cause noises to other neighbors or to other people. And then moderate costs are passive. Very affordable, and even a commoners or moderate families can be able to purchase or install this. And of course, if there is advantage, there will be always a disadvantage. Here is the disadvantage. Need access to sun 60%. Like solar panels, it will need sun to store energy, and if it always raining in the area, expect that it will not last long the energy. Sun can be blocked by trees and other structures. It's important to place your panels in an open area without blocking the sun, and if you have a big panels, it will be a problem, especially if you live in a bushes area or the population is too high. Environmental costs not included in market price. In this kind of energy in the marketplace, some of sellers would make a high price because it's not covered in market price. Need heat storage system. As what I've said, it will be important to expose it, especially in sun and open area. High cost or active. Some countries is very rare and demand. This is the market that would put a high price. Active system needs maintenance and repair. If it's damaged and cannot be able anymore to store an energy, a repair will do, and sometimes it's costly, especially if it's stricken by typhoon and some parts are not there. Active collectors unattractive. Solar collectors usually not maintaining and not suit the preferences of beauty in a building or homes. Those are the advantages and disadvantages of passive and active solar heating. Now we continue the advantages in this main event. Third is we can cool buildings naturally. Direct solar energy actually works against us when we want to keep a building cool. But we can use indirect solar energy, mainly wind and other natural services, to help cool buildings. To understand further what is direct solar energy, it is a type of solar heating system. It's like a potable water that is drawn directly from the storage tank, while indirect solar energy involves multiple transformations of solar radiation until it is finally converted into an indirect form of solar energy. The fourth one is we can use sunlight to produce high temperature heat and electricity. Solar terminal systems concentrate and transform energy from the sun into high temperature terminal energy or heat. We can then be used to heat water and produce steam to generate electricity. These systems are used mostly in desert areas with ample sunlight. There are some advantages and disadvantages of concentrating solar energy to produce high temperature heat and electricity. Moderate environmental impact, which means it will not high risky for environments such as air pollution and so on. No carbon dioxide emissions, it will not lead to global warming or not turn out climate change. Fast construction for 1 to 2 years, it will not take long to make and build this energy. And cost reduced with natural gas turbine backup means its cost is not for too high, just moderate because the resources came from natural only. While it disadvantages is low efficiency, it has low ability to secure energy for a longer time. Low net energy and high cost sometimes in a market price is unreasonable, they will give it too high. Environmental costs not included in market price, needs backup or storage system, needs access to sun most of the time, and may distort desert areas. Now, in the fourth one here is we can use sunlight to produce electricity. Solar energy can be converted directly into electrical energy by photovoltaic or PV cells, commonly called solar cells. Most solar cells are thin wafers or purified silicon with trace amounts of metals that allow them to function as semiconductors to produce electricity. Here the list the advantages and disadvantages of using solar cells. The fifth one is we can produce electricity from falling and flowing water. Hydropower uses the kinetic energy of flowing and falling water to produce electricity. It is an indirect form of solar energy because it is based on the evaporation of water, which is deposited at higher elevations where it can flow to lower elevations in rivers as part of the Earth's solar-powered water cycles. Here are the advantages: moderate to high net energy, high efficiency 80%, large untapped potential, low-cost electricity, long lifespan, no carbon dioxide emissions during operation in temperature areas, can provide flood control below dam, reservoir useful for fishing and recreation. While disadvantages are high construction costs, high environmental impact from flooding land to form our reservoirs, environmental costs not included in the market price, high CHR or methane emissions from rapid biomass decay in shallow tropical reservoir, danger of collapse, uproots, people decreases fish harvest below dam and decreases flow of natural fertilizer or silt to land below dam. 6 is using wind to produce electricity is an important step towards sustainability. The difference in solar heating of the Earth between the equator and the poles together with the Earth's rotation create flows of air called wind. This indirect form of solar energy can be captured by wind turbines on land, at sea, and converted into electrical energy. Its advantages are: in 2008, the DOE estimates that with sufficient and sustained government incentives, wind power could provide at least 20% of the country's electricity by 2030. This will support 500 jobs, sharply reduce air pollution and greenhouse gas emission by an amount equal to that emitted by 140 million motor vehicles. Help phase out more environmentally harmful coal and nuclear power plants and save consumers an estimated $12 billion a year. Wind is abundant, widely distributed, and mostly carbon-free and pollution-free. Like any energy source, wind power has some drawbacks or disadvantages. Areas with the greatest wind power potential are often sparsely populated and located far from energy-thirsty cities, cause controversy in lawsuits. Winds can die down and thus require a backup source of power. The seventh is we can get energy by burning solid biomass. What is biomass? Biomass consists of plant materials such as wood and agricultural waste. Animal wastes that can be burned directly as a solid fuel or converted into gaseous or liquid biofuels. As with the energy resource of solid biomass has its advantages and disadvantages. One problem is that clearing forests for fuel reduces the amount of vegetation that would otherwise capture carbon dioxide, and burning biomass produces carbon dioxide. However, if the rate of use of biomass does not exceed the rate at which it is replenished by new plant growth, there is no net increase in carbon dioxide emissions. But monitoring and managing this balance globally or throughout any one country is very difficult. The eighth one is we can convert plants and plant wastes to liquid biofuels. So what is liquid biofuels? Those are the biodiesel and ethanol or ethyl alcohol, which are produced from plants and plant wastes. Can be used in place of petroleum-based diesel fuel and gasoline. Biofuels have three major advantages over gasoline and diesel fuel produced from oil. First, while oil resources are concentrated in a small number of countries, biofuels crops can be grown almost anywhere and thus help countries reduce their dependence on imported oil. The second is, if these crops are not used faster than they are replenished by new plant growth, there is no net increase in carbon dioxide emissions, unless existing grasslands or forests are cleared to plant biofuel crops. The third one is biofuels are available now, are easy to store and transport through existing fuel networks, and can be used in motor vehicles at little or no additional cost. However, in 2007, a UN report on bioenergy and another study by Arzan and his colleagues, scientists warned that large-scale biofuel crop farming could decrease biodiversity by increasing the clearing of natural forests and grasslands, um, increase soil degradation, erosion, and nutrient leaching, push small farmers off their land, and raise food prices if farmers can make more money by growing corn and other crops to make biofuels for cars rather than to feed livestock and people. In the ninth, we can get energy to topping the Earth's internal heat. So geothermal energy is a heat stored in soil, underground rocks, and fluid in the Earth's mantle. We can tap into this stored energy to heat and cool buildings and to produce electricity. So here are the disadvantages and disadvantages of geothermal energy. Very high efficiency, moderate net energy at accessible sites, lower carbon dioxide emissions than fossil fuels, low cost and favorable sites, low land use and disturbance, and moderate environmental impact. And the disadvantages of it is scarcity of suitable sites can be depleted if used too rapidly, environmental costs not included in market price, carbon dioxide emissions, moderate to high local air pollution, noise and odor, and high cost except at the most concentrated and accessible sources. So that would be all the advantages and disadvantages of renewable energy resources. As you can see, these renewable resources had a good impact to society and a better option to reduce the crisis of populations, global warming, and really efficient and convenient to use. We move forward to the last topic, all about how can we make a transition to a more sustainable energy future. The first 1 year is there will be a gradual shift from large, centralized macro power system to smaller, decentralized micro power systems. As you can see in the picture, those are the wind turbines, household solar cell panels, rooftop solar water heaters, small natural gas turbines, and fuel cells for cars, houses, and commercial buildings. The second general conclusion of experts is that a combination of greatly improved energy efficiency and the temporary use of natural gas will best help us to make the transition to a diverse mix of local available renewable energy resources over the next several decades. The third one here is because of their supplies and artificial low prices, fossil fuels will continue to be used in large quantities. However, there are two major advantages or challenges. One is to find ways to reduce the harmful environmental impacts of widespread fossil fuel use, with special emphasis on reducing outdoor air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. The other is to find ways to include the harmful environmental costs of using fossil fuels in their market prices. So the next picture is a list of strategies for making the transition to a more sustainable energy future over the next 50 years. The first is improve energy efficiency, belonging increase fuel efficiency standards for vehicles, buildings, and appliances, mandate government purchases of efficient vehicles and other devices, provide large tax credits or rebates for buying efficient cars, houses, and appliances, offer large tax credits for investment in energy efficiency, reward utilities for reducing demand for electricity, and the last is greatly increase energy efficiency, research, and development. Um, and there are also more renewable energy and reduce pollution and health risks. So, as you can see in the picture, there's a lot of it. I will not talk to it kay taas na kaayo. So those are the suggestions of various analysis for helping us to make this transition to a more suitable energy future. So all in all, it's all of us how to make it more useful and save the sustainable energy sources. So to give a conclusion of our reports, fuels like coal, oil, natural gas, uranium, and biomass are some of the environment's main energy sources.
Nuclear energy is released during nuclear fissions or fission, especially when used to make electricity. And renewable resources is energy produced from sources like the sun and the wind that are naturally. So we can deny the fact that each of them had advantages and disadvantages. Only us will be able to make and transition how to secure it and make it usable for the environment and community. That will be all. Thank you for listening.